Welcome, everybody. Today is Wednesday, May 26th, and actually we're recording on May 24th. It's Monday for me. We have a conference going, and so we're recording early. So I'm going to switch us to our shared screen. Everything's optimized. We're going to get started. All right. Good afternoon. This is our regular installation of the PCORE monthly webinar. PCORE stands for Patient-Centered Outcome Research for Employees in the Near West Side, PCORE. And this is a project that is being hosted and implemented by Dr. Dan Pinto and Dr. Abiola Keller at Marquette University. And the goal is really trying to bring employers and employees together and to help them work on wellness and health and the policy and rollout of that, so everyone benefits from programming and services that our employers, so many of our employers are able and generous enough to offer us. So that's a little bit about the PCORE program. COVID-19, we're still got it going. We're about halfway there for Wisconsin residents being vaccinated. Keep going, folks. Now we're just really trying to reach out to the folks that maybe don't know how to get there, aren't sure that they should be getting that vaccine, maybe aren't too interested, but would get it. So there's a lot of different folks out there that still need the shot, and we would like to make sure that they get them. Really, we're looking at keeping our community healthy and well, and that's everybody in our community, and allowing everybody to be able to be with their loved ones and celebrate the long weekend. We have 4th of July coming up. Graduations are going on now, proms. So for folks to really, really enjoy those, we need to be vaccinated. Regardless, wearing a mask is always a safe bet. And if you don't feel well, don't go out. We have some vaccine clinics coming up this week. There's in different fields. We just had one on the 20th at Marquette. American Family Field will be hosting some this week. There's lots of different opportunities. Please do go to our website. You will find resources there. And if you have questions or concerns, don't hesitate to give us a call. We really do want to help our community be healthy. Project Clean and Green is on its wrap up. So if you live in the designated neighborhoods where the city will be picking up extra stuff at your curbside, get it out there. You do need to go look at what zone you're in and check out if you can leave all your stuff that you want to get to the dump, and it's not all of it, but you can leave a portion of it. That's acceptable. And our garbage guys will come out and pick it up for us rather than you're having to go to the dump. So it's a really positive program to help people get things cleaned up, cleaned out safely and out of their house. So do take a look at that. And then our CNI neighborhood marker survey is really wrapping up. If you might be able to sneak one in there, but this is all about the Choice Neighborhood Initiative grant program. And this was the funding we received at the very beginning of the grant process to allow us to do some brick and mortar improvements in our 7 neighborhoods. And one of the ones that all of you chose was a marker. And so each neighborhood's getting a unique sculpture to their neighborhood. And then it's got some kind of common themes and elements that will tie them all together so that folks know they're in the Near West Side, but they will always know that they're in your neighborhood. And then with that, there's going to be a little past, present, and then Indigenous summary on each of the sculptures on the 3 sides, and also QR code so that people can learn more about your neighborhood. So if you would like to take that survey, you probably can squeak in there. It's at nearwestsidemke.org/CNI, and you can see all these beautiful renderings of the sculptures that will be brightening our neighborhood. And we have plenty of jobs available in the Near West Side, so please take a look. You can contact these folks at these websites. We have Aunt Annie's and Jamba Juice at Marquette. Pete's Pops is always hiring. He's expanding 1,000,000 miles a minute and always needs some feet on the street. Potawatomi is definitely running commercials and wants to get some folks down in the valley to help them get back up and running. And then our favorite little Peruvian restaurant, Triciclo Peru, is another source that does need some support and services. They have food trucks. They have 2 restaurants now. So they definitely need your help as well. Please share the information, and let's help those folks stay in business. The Hunger Task Force will be in our neighborhood tomorrow, or I guess it'll be yesterday for y'all, at 11 a.m. at Penfield Children's Center. That's fresh fruit, produce, milk, dairy. Anyone can use it. It is not meant explicitly for a group of folks that may be in special need. It's a great resource for people that maybe just have to walk to get their groceries or that get on the bus. So, and there are also coupons being given out 50% off, in generous support from Harley Davidson. So do take a look at that. And then they do accept most credit cards, there's debit cards, and then of course the Quest EBT card. And that will be there yesterday. So today we are talking about legal considerations for employers during COVID-19. Our guest is Meg Kurlinski. She's an attorney at Godfrey Kahn, and she has taken time aside for us to really help employers understand the chaos of what we need to do with our employees. And this is a useful webinar for our employees to learn what they need to know about going back to work if they haven't been there, and safe practices and the way we want to take care of that. So I am going to, oh, I missed, where'd she go? There she is. I got out of order. I will go back, so one of the resources that she does provide us is OSHA. They are planning on putting out some guidelines. And with that, I did go there this morning. I didn't see anything new on those guidelines. I could be wrong, but as we get more information, again, our website is a great place for you to be able to get some information and understand better. So this is our excuse me, our friend Meg, and she is a real asset to this webinar, and I'm looking forward to sharing this interview with you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am honored to welcome our guest, Meg Kurlinski, and she is from Godfrey & Kahn, an attorney at law, and she is going to give us some information on employment law. Meg, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm Meg Kurlinski. Like you said, I'm an attorney at Godfrey & Kahn here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I specialize in employment law and management side employment law. So that means I just work with employers all day, every day in compliance with state and federal rules that regulate employees, and when things get a little sticky in the employer-employee relationship. The pandemic has been a very exciting time for me because there has been a lot of change going on and helping clients adapt to that. A little bit about me and my love for Milwaukee is I am a Milwaukee transplant. I moved here for the job. I went to law school at Washington University in St. Louis. I interviewed here in Milwaukee. I'm going on 16 years. I brought my husband here. We have our children here. I deeply, deeply love Milwaukee. So it's now home. And so happy to be here and do things to support our community.
Well, thank you. And we do share that in common. I'm from Central Illinois, but raised my family here, and we haven't left yet. So I think we're going to stay. So, well, as you were saying, COVID's changed the world. What are your hot topics? What are your clients worried about, interested in?
Well, so there's a number of things. I would like to start out with that for the most part, we don't have any new laws that regulate all of these things with respect to the pandemic, vaccination, not vaccination, return to work. We have a lot of guidance, which means that there's state and federal and local governments that have guidance on how to do things. And that means that sometimes there is just a lot of noise out there for employers to internalize. Sometimes it's conflicting to try to come up with the right answer. So when I talk about these two topics, I'm concentrating on the guidance. And, perfect can be the enemy of good sometimes. So, you really have to balance what that guidance is with where you're at as an employer and your workforce. So the two big topics, right now are around vaccination, and it's, requiring vaccination, and what do you do when the employees come back to the office vaccinated, and how do you handle that dynamic of vaccinated or unvaccinated? So for the first question of requiring vaccination, legally in Wisconsin, you can require an employee. You will hear that there are states that have enacted or have tried to enact legislation that prohibits an employer from doing that. We don't have that in Wisconsin as it stands. Practically, none, if only a few of the clients I've worked with have mandated vaccination. When you mandate vaccination and you require it as a condition of employment, you do have to accommodate employees with disabilities under the ADA or the Wisconsin disability laws, and you have to accommodate religious objections to vaccination for sincerely held religious beliefs. So when you mandate something, you open up the door to navigating those issues. When you make it voluntary, you don't. And so that has kind of been where most clients have landed as of now, just getting people to voluntarily get vaccinated. Maybe that changes. So there's probably follow-on questions from that we can get into, but to scope out the second issue, it is where we are when employees come back fully vaccinated. And good news and bad news, and I'm probably going to outdate myself really quickly with new guidance that comes out. But the CDC, cdc.org, and they have special drop-down pages for workers and businesses, has conflicting information out there. We have all heard and seen the information that 2 vaccinated people can be in the room and they don't have to be masked. And yet there is still guidance on the CDC for employers to encourage masking in the workplace. And those are somewhat contradictory. We are also waiting for OSHA. So that's the federal agency that regulates health and safety in the workplace. And it regulates nearly every workplace with respect to maintaining a safe and healthy workplace. So it does apply to most people. We are waiting on guidance from them. They were supposed to have guidance out by March 15th. We are well past that time frame. And there is speculation that guidance is going to say that masking should continue, but we don't have that yet. Practically, most of my clients are continuing to have masking rules because there are either local ordinances that require it or they want it just as a best practice while everybody in the workplace is still getting vaccinated. Employers can request and require proof of vaccination. So they could say, I want to see proof of vaccination. that is not an unlawful medical inquiry. Asking for that information, the ask for that information doesn't violate HIPAA, that it's not covered by HIPAA in that way. And employers are frequently asking, can we even find out who's vaccinated or not? And you can. So I'm sure there's some questions after all that talking.
Okay, I'll give you one then. So if you find out they're not, what recommendations do you make to your clients?
So I think if you have unvaccinated individuals that are reporting to the office, it's a best practice to require masking. Employers do have a vested interest in a healthy workforce, right? Where people can come to work and don't get sick, and it's in the best interest of everybody. So that has been what I have been recommending. Is it legally required? That would depend on what municipality you're in, because we don't have a state mandate.
Okay.
So, city of Milwaukee has a mandate, so you would have to do it no matter what. Masking has been my advice for the time being, especially because we don't want to roll back all these masking rules. If OSHA does come out with guidance, we're going to have to put them back in place, because you have sometimes employee morale issues with that.
And so that being said, it really is, depending on where you live, the mask mandate is pretty much going to help you establish that protocol anyway. So
yeah, you can fall back on it as being required. Even if it's not required by a local ordinance, employers as a private employer can make rules like that.
And that would also include their clients, correct? So you have to wear a mask as I walk into your office later today. Okay, very good. And with your client base, we're talking about vaccine as well. How do we, for those folks that are reluctant, and there's a lot of reasons, what can an employer do to help turn that tide a little bit for their employee to learn more, to understand the value of vaccine?
Right. So you see education and you see incentives.
Okay.
So in the education realm, I've just seen clients get wildly creative, and they will find a medical expert. There are a number of folks just locally that are willing to talk to groups of businesses and individuals to have a town hall or a Q&A just to ask some questions about the vaccine and any side effects of the vaccine. So just to spread some information, so Q&A sessions. Clients have gotten very creative in creating kind of landing pages that have different resources and different media. So one that I thought was particularly interesting is there's this Instagram account called Dear Pandemic. And it's a bunch of medical experts and scientists that put out a lot of information. And so just giving employees resources to get educated about the vaccine in different ways has fulfilled that kind of prong. Incentives always help. From a legal perspective, to get a little technical on everybody, an incentive through any kind of health plan, you are likely going to be subject to the voluntary involuntary standards of if incentives are too large, then it becomes involuntary is essentially the concern. Modest incentives are, like a Starbucks gift card is not going to go too far there, but giving those incentives. What are the watch outs for incentives are if you have somebody that can't get vaccinated. Exceptions we talked about, a disability or sincerely held religious belief. What you do as an employer, if someone says, I can't get vaccinated, but I still want the incentive, you do generally need to make a reasonable accommodation in that. So is there something else that individual could do to earn that incentive that goes towards that goal? So maybe it is more frequent COVID testing, maybe it's adding a face shield, just kind of getting creative in that way, but just be aware of that. A very popular incentive, and I know we're going to talk about it a little bit, is paid time off. Either just an extra PTO day, which no one's going to turn down, or paid time off to actually go get the vaccine, and some assurances that there will be additional paid time off if someone is a little ill the day after they get the vaccine.
Which again, as you said, this spurs really that next question. So what I think I'm hearing is, as an employer, I don't have to give paid time off, but I can, correct?
Yeah, it can get a little more technical than that.
Okay.
So if you have someone that is a non-exempt salaried employee and they just like pop out in the middle of the day to get their vaccine and then they come back, you would need to compensate them because they're a salaried employee.
Okay.
For, non-exempt hourly employees, that time off is not required to be compensated. Everybody, the CDC, local agencies, everybody is being encouraged to provide paid time off to do that.
Yeah, which is a nice little perk. And that's, I guess, would be a challenge for some of our smaller businesses, just be able to try to manage that whole flux of having someone get it, maybe out the next day, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Are there still any, this is going off the script. Are there still issues with the childcare and getting the children going into school, getting out of school, all that kind of crazy stuff that an employer can't control for their employee? How is that? What are you hearing about that?
Well, as a mom of a 7 and a 4-year-old, I hope some of those days are over of school closures. But so the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act, FFCRA, had some paid leave entitlements that went through the end of 2020. Those covered all employers under 500 employees. So even very small employers, that was covered. The mechanism was the employer provided the leave, but there was a tax credit on your quarterly taxes. And so the government covered the cost of that leave. So the mandate for that leave ended at the end of 2020. There is still an optional kind of rubric that you can opt into where the same thing happens, but it's voluntary for employers. So you advance the leave and then you get the tax credit on the back end. Employers under 500 employees are eligible to do that. There is still an entitlement of up to 12 weeks. It falls under the FMLA rubric. So up to 12 weeks of pay at 2/3 pay for leave to care for a child whose school is closed or caregiver isn't available due to COVID-19. If, as an employer, you want to take advantage of it, because again, it's voluntary, you do want to inform your workforce of that entitlement. There's notices that you can get off of the Federal Department of Labor website that explains those rights. You as an employer would then need to get proof that the leave is being used for those protected reasons so that you get the tax credits that you want. And if you're ever audited by the IRS, you're going to be in good shape. So it's out there. I don't think as many people have opted into it as people anticipated. Most people haven't opted into it. It's only good through September of 2021. But if you do, make sure that you're doing it for the entirety of your workforce and not just in a one-off situation.
Okay, good to know. I see. I love doing these things. I even learn things, right? It's just the little things at life that make us happy. What about obligations of our employers that have an employee get sick with COVID on site? How do they handle that situation?
So you still have an obligation to quarantine. Taking a couple steps back, OSHA and state safe places statutes place an obligation on an employer to keep a safe workplace. And so from that kind of flows if someone is symptomatic or sick or has an exposure, they need to be excluded from the work site. Those rules of, 10 days of quarantine still apply, or a test after, I believe, day 5, a negative test after day 5.
Okay.
The CDC website, cdc.org, is a great place to narrow down on what that rule is right now. The good news is that if someone is fully vaccinated, so they've got through that 2-week period following their second dose, they do not have to quarantine with an exposure unless they are symptomatic. So you're seeing less and less need to quarantine people. But it is absolutely the best practice to make sure that you continue to encourage people that have symptoms, are not feeling well, to not report to the office. And if possible, just work from home.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, thank you. That definitely helps folks along. And then as we're talking vaccine as well, there's different ways we can get that vaccine. And what if somebody is charged, or their vendor is asking for a fee, or I had to provide my insurance card? What is that going to mean? I'm going to get a bill? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on everybody's health insurance plan, is my disclaimer. I have heard from clients and in my own experience of getting the vaccine that you certainly show your health insurance card. At this point, my understanding is that everybody should be getting the vaccine for free. And it's just a matter of the health insurance recording that you have received it. The legal nitty-gritty of it is, if you are an employer and you aren't mandating it, you're just encouraging it, you don't have to pay for the employee's costs incurred in conjunction with getting it. So you're not going to be legally obligated to reimburse an employee that under some weird circumstance gets a charge, which I really don't think they should be getting a charge right now. Now, that's what you're legally required to do. If you are encouraging the vaccine and someone incurs a strange charge, you could always work through that with that individual employee, of course, just as a supportive employer. Oh, I lost you. I think you're on mute.
I am. This is one of my best habits I've created in all the Zoom webinars. And then I think one more question that's a little, again, that we didn't really talk about prior, but just a sense of what they're doing in Europe with the COVID passport. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but have an understanding to help us better understand what that looks like. I mean, is that a possibility from the law perspective that we as American citizens have to now have our cute little passport of vaccination to prove that we have gotten that done?
Yeah, I mean, I have some personal opinions based on what I think is going to happen. I don't know if I see a government mandated passport in our future unless it's coming from the federal government.
Okay.
I mean, I know that there's a lot of concerns about privacy. what I think is more likely to happen, or at the very least happen quicker, is that you are going to see the private sector make those requirements. So you are going to see concert venues require proof of vaccination, or sporting events, or some of these I feel like cruise lines have required some of these kinds of things. So I see the private sector being the one that is going to advance that kind of issue faster. That is just purely Meg Kurlinski's conjecture. So take that for what it's worth.
I think that's worth it. Yeah. And I mean, I truly, because people are very concerned about that. And it goes back to much of what the mask has been, is just a right of doing it or not. So I'm glad to, maybe we'll get some people at least thinking about it, so they're prepared if we do have something change come down the road. So remind us of those websites or organizations that are going to be helpful for our employers as they continue to navigate the daily changes of COVID at their work site.
Yeah, so I know that every industry has their industry guidance and magazines and news updates, and I think those are incredibly valuable resources. I do always encourage folks to kind of go back to the original sources of guidance so you are understanding what's going on. And so those original sources right now for federal law is going to be cdc.org. So the CDC website, you can drill down to businesses and workers, and they have specific guidance on quarantine, vaccination requirements, masking requirements, etc. So that's where you're going to get most of the federal law. Like I said, OSHA may come out with guidance. That's going to be osha.gov, osha.gov. That'll hit the news and you'll hear about it when it happens, but that would be a good place to go. Wisconsin, we have the Wisconsin DHS.Wisconsin. Website for state guidance. The DHS website is quite nice. They also have a navigation pane for employers to go through requirements. It's a place where you can go to encourage your employees on locating vaccination sites, as well as getting educational information. So those are those two primary resources.
Awesome. I know, there we go. I got it off. And so there will be a slide at the end of this, so people have that. We also will post this to the website. And as Meg said too, that's just for anybody. You don't have to be an employer to use those resources. So you can be informed, get information, especially if you're not sure. And we just need to keep the ball rolling. And potentially, Meg, we may do a little follow-up after that OSHA statement is produced. So we'll see where that goes. Hopefully before this airs, there will be more answers for our employers.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, you provided a lot of answers for us. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and supporting the Near West Side and the Patient-Centered Outcome Research Initiative for employees, and helping our community better understand how to navigate COVID. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Many thanks to Meg for that wonderful interview. I'm going to kind of bobble back and forth just so it wasn't getting too crazy on that PowerPoint, and we will wrap her up. Share, and we're going to go next slide. Oop, come on, go forward. Well, maybe we won't. I'm not going to worry about it too much. So let us do that again one more time. I know what I'm doing wrong. Stop, share. Here we go. It wasn't so hard after all, was it? And we want to go on to our next slide. There we go. Okay, thanks for your patience.
Good
peeps.
afternoon, everybody.
And
I am honored to welcome our guest.
Okay, now we're moving on. There we go. So as you did hear Meg say, she has several resources, OSHA, and that's the last slide I did have there. Our other national federal website is the CDC Centers for Disease Control. And finally, the Wisconsin state site is the Department of Health Services, DHS.wisconsin.gov. And of course, we have our local resources here through the city of Milwaukee and the health department. So there's a lot of different resources. Overarching generally will be that OSHA one, but you can always fall back on your local resources, especially as it comes to local law. And we'll go, don't want to go there. Yeah, there we go. So speaking of local, we do have local resources for fresh food. Milwaukee Public Schools is offering meals for the summer. Kids are getting out of school, kind of hard to believe. And then we have the Neighborhood House Food Pantry. With the Neighborhood House Food Pantry, they do need donations. They need volunteers. And something I just found out about, they need bags. So if you have paper bags that you do not need anymore, feel free to pack them up and get them over to Neighborhood House. This helps our neighbors be able to carry some groceries home. And that is always a little, even just a little bit of help makes a big difference. And we're always recruiting for this program, PCORE, Patient-Centered Outcome Research for Employees. And with that, we need employees on our stakeholder panel. The goal behind this program is really helping employers and employees work together to provide a robust health and wellness program within their organizations. And maybe you're not big enough to have that, but at least you have some resources, and we can, that's part of what we're trying to do is be able to provide information to employers and employees about health and wellness in the Near West Side. So if you are an employee within our neighborhoods, you don't need to live here. We just want you to work here. If you do both, double win, that's me. And we really would welcome more employees to be able to help just elevate health and wellness for our community. And if you do have any questions, you have topic suggestions, we're on our final stretch of 3 more webinars. So we're always interested in making sure that we get the information out to you and what you need. We are coming up on our next webinar. And the big one, I will say, is Senator Tammy Baldwin. So she is scheduled to be with us in 1 month. And we're looking forward to her highlighting all the some of the big points of what's coming out with the American Rescue and Recovery Act, and sharing any other hot topics going on in the nation's capital. So let me know if you have questions. Barb Scotty at PCORE@nearwestsidepartners.org. Give me a call if you need to. All right, have a great day. Thank you.